The journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beat, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.
Hello, welcome to Heart of the Tribe. I'm so glad that you're able to come and join me today. I have kind of a long teaching. I'll warn you ahead of time. We're delving into, the encampment of the wilderness and the patterns of those heavenly things being reflected in the earth and the earthly patterns that we were given concerning worship. And we are going to be looking specifically at the tribe of Levi. So I hope you guys find this enjoyable. Welcome, Ren. Welcome, Betty. Good to see you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it and put it here in the screen so that hopefully you guys can see. Hopefully that won't block my little picture there. Maybe I better put it to the side, trying to figure out what looks the best. Is that one? No, that one's definitely not good because I want y'all to be able to see it. So let me try. But I want you to be able to see me. Sorry, I'm sitting here playing around with this. Let me go to this and just add it into the screen. Let's try that. All right. I guess that's as good as it's going to be. All right. Okay, so let's start here with in Luke chapter 11. Now, what I do for every scripture that I've got listed today, I just went to eSword and used the Millennium edition of the Sefer that's on eSword and put it here in the document so that we can see it. So let's look here at Mashiach's prayer that he gave us, right? So we can see this pattern. So Luke 11:1, and it came to pass that as he was praying in a certain place, when he ceased, one of his talmidim said unto him, Adonai, teach us to pray as Yochanan also taught his talmidim. And he said unto them, when you pray, say, Our Father who established Yeshua in the heavens, our Father who established salvation in the heavens, in the heavenly places, okay? Exalted is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done in earth as it's already being done in the heavens. So this is that pattern, right? Where we can see it. There was a pattern that had already been established, and it was his will that the same thing would be portrayed on the earth, okay? Give us day by day our daily bread, and forgive us our transgressions, for we also forgive everyone that has transgressed against us. And lead us not into the evil inclination. Let me see if I can remove this little part here. Okay. And lead us not into the evil inclination, but deliver us from the outer darkness. And so this is how he wanted us to pray. Hi, Lee. Good to see you here too. And I'm glad, Ren, that you're not going to mind a long teaching. If it gets too long, you'll have to, come back and listen later, right? But I'm going to give it all to you in this one shot. All right. So Genesis 3 is where I wanted to start looking for this pattern. So we start in the very beginning, right? So in Genesis 3, verses 22 through 24, we've got, and Yahweh Elohim said, Behold, the man is become as one of us. They'd partaken of the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, Yahweh Elohim sent him forth from the garden to till the ground from whence he was taken. What's he saying? He's like, it's horrible that now they've taken from the knowledge of good and evil, and now evil has entered into the mind and ruach and of man. He's been corrupted with wrong thought patterns. The worst thing that could happen is that he eats from this tree of life, and therefore no redemption would be possible for them, because they would live forever in that state, in an unredeemable state, right? So it was his kindness that caused him to remove us from access to the tree of life, so that none of us would have to do that, because he desires that no one perish, no, not one. That would be his desire. Of course, we are given free choice, and we have partaken of that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so now we have to make choices based on that. And we're going to make our choices. And he says, I would that you would choose life, but not all will choose life. Okay. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden Caravan, some say cherubim, right? And a flaming sword, which turned every way to guard the tree of life. So here's where I want to start. Let's look at this word for the cherubim. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger for you guys. I like getting these word pictures where we can really see it. Okay, so we've got it. So we're looking at the cherubim, right? So here is the word. Good morning, Eileen. Nice to see you there. We have a kaf, a resh, a vav, and a bet or a vet, depending on how it's pronounced. Okay, so let's look at the word picture for the cherubim. We have the palm, the outstretched palm, the open hand of Yah. Okay, so it's like a rulership. And then you've got the way man thinks. Okay, connected to the nail, right? Connected to with the vav, the house that he wants us dwelling in, right? So he's saying, submit your mind, put your brain, the way you think, underneath that outstretched hand of Yah, the open hand of Yah. And then you'll be connected to the house. So what was the whole job of the cherubim? It's explained in this word picture of the name. They were, their wingspan was mighty and great, right? And that's always kind of what that kaf can be, the wingspan. Okay, so the job of the cherubim was to spread out their wing so that man's mind might have a chance at being connected to the house. This is the job. This is how we can see through the word picture, the paleo or the pictographic word picture, what it was, the pure language of Elohim, what he was intending to be this job of the cherubim. All right, so now let me go a little further. So now when we look up this in the Brown Driver Briggs, we'll see a definition. So we've got H3752. You can see it here written in the modern. You get the pronunciation. Cherubim for plural, an angelic being, the guardians of Eden. They flank God's throne, Yahweh's throne. They're an image form hovering over the Ark of the Covenant. We see that as the chariot of yahuah, right? Figuratively, he rides upon them. And I'm going to show you this in a minute. Good morning, Kay. Good to see you. Or it might be afternoon or evening. People come from all over, so I never know. All right. So I have a particular study site that I really, really like. I get a lot from this study site, and I've got it listed for you guys here. I always believe it's better, rather than just give someone a fish, I like to try to teach them to fish themselves, so that you guys can find all kinds of cool treasure within the word for yourself. So I really like this site. It's called www.studylight.org. And when I looked up this word there, it took me, they have a section called the Gershonites Hebrew and Chaldee definition. So when I'm looking at this word cherub, in the theology, it says, in the theology of the Hebrews, i.e. in the revelation of God, a being of sublime and celestial nature in figure, compounded of that of a man, an ox, a lion, and an eagle. Okay, 3 animals which together with man symbolize power and wisdom. And so you see that they've got some references here to Ezekiel 1 verses chapter 1 verses 1 through 28 and all of chapter 10. So you can find further information there. They are first spoken of as guarding paradise. That's what we just saw in Genesis 3:24. Afterwards, as bearing the throne of God upon their wings through the clouds. This can be found in 2 Samuel 22:11. And it says, and he rode upon a cherub and did fly. In Psalms 18:11, there's another reference, who sits upon the cherubs. This is Elohim sitting upon the cherubs, right? Lastly, of the wooden statues of cherubs overlaid with gold, which were in the inmost part of the holy tabernacle. That's in Exodus 25:18, and in the Temple of Solomon, 1 Kings 6:23, on the walls of which there were also figures of cherubs that had been carved. Okay, so then I wanted to move on. Let's just look at a little bit of this in Ezekiel for ourselves. So in Ezekiel, he was residing in Babylon at the time that this was written. Okay, so it says, now it came to pass in the 13th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river of Kavar, that the heavens were opened and I saw visions of Elohim. So he's being given a vision of how things are in the heavenly realm, right? In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Yahuah's captivity, the word of yahuah came expressly unto Ezekiel, the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Kasdim. Okay, so where was he? He was in of the Kasdim. This is comes from the lineage of one of Abraham's brothers. They were expressly in the employ of Nimrod. That's who these people were, and they were the sorcerers. Okay, so this is where he was when he gets this vision, the land of sorcery. All right, so by the river Kavar, and the hand of Yahweh was there upon him. Okay, so Yah's hand, no matter where he was, Yah's hand was upon him, and he was taken into a vision. And here's what he saw. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it. And out of the midst thereof is the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. Okay, so let's skip down and see what these faces were in verse 10. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, the face of a lion on the right side. They had 4 the face of an ox on the left side. They 4 also had the face of an eagle, and everyone had 4 faces. The first was the face of the Caravan, so the man, right? Or yeah, I'm sorry, the Caravan itself. And I believe this would have been the face of the ox, because that's what I don't see there. The second was the face of a man, and the third the face of the lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. And the cherubim were lifted up. This is the living creature that I saw by the river Kavar. Okay, now taking that in mind, let's go back to the Torah portions. So in Numbers chapters 1 and 2, this would be the portion called Bamidbar. We are given the setup of the chief tribes, which means, okay, that word means wilderness, okay, out in the wilderness. All right, so we know that the first time the children of Yasharel were rescued out of the system of Egypt, right, of that world power system, they were taken to the wilderness. Okay, and this is what we can expect to see again. Okay, So this is what we learned from that. So in Numbers chapter 1 and 2, we're given the setup of the chief tribes. So what we're given, the very first thing that they're given in the wilderness, right, in Bamidbar, in this portion of the Torah portions, is a pattern of order, a pattern of how they were to worship Elohim, where they were to be. It was a pattern on earth as it is in heaven. Okay, this is what they were given. All right, so we are given the setup of the chief tribes, and that Levi was to be in the middle, surrounding the tabernacle, ministering to yahuah. And the reason it was done this way was to keep the children of Yasharel safe, so that they did not inadvertently do something out of order, because they had left Egypt, but Egypt had not left them, and they had no idea how to correctly worship Yahuah. Okay, so here's the pattern. I went over this a little bit last Friday, but I really want to jump headlong into it now. Okay, so on the east, we had the lion. And so this is what I was talking about last week with the Gospels. The book of Matthew was written. This is why we see the same story repeated 4 different times in these gospel accounts, because it needed to be spoken to in a way that each section of Yasharel would be able to receive and understand what was being said, and the message within the message for each division, okay, each direction of the 4 corners of the earth. All right. So the book of Matthew was written specifically to the standard of the lion, which would be the lead tribe of Yehudah, with Issachar and Zebulun on either side. Okay. The book of Mark, the bull, okay, the ox, written specifically for the tribes on the west, okay, Ephraim, with Manasseh and Benjamin on either side. The book of John, the eagle, okay, is what's on the banner of Dan, the lead tribe. And this was written specifically to them, and Asher and Naphtali are on either side, okay. Then we have to the south, the book of Luke, written, this is the face of the man, okay, written specifically to the lead tribe, Reuben, with the man on his banner, with Shimon and Gad on either side. And that's how the pattern was. And this is the same pattern that is in the heavenly realms. Okay, so let's just talk about this for a moment. Let's talk about what this is saying. What can we learn from the natural characteristics of, let's start with the lion, Yehudah, okay, along with, I have to go back and look, Issachar and Zebulun. Okay. All right. So what are some facts we know about lions? They typically live in prides of about 10 to 15, composed of mostly females, with the males ranging from 1 to 7 members. The roar of an adult male can be heard up to 5 miles away. The roar of the lioness is not as loud, but it has a higher pitch. Okay, so it reaches a frequency and a level that the male's voice doesn't. So it's carrying a loud sound through many different ranges of the frequency. Okay. All right. They sleep approximately 20 hours out of every 24, and they hunt at night. They exhibit little to no fear, as they are confident that they are the king of the jungle. The males patrol their borders for the safety of the pride, while the women go out and hunt at night. Okay, let's look at some eagle facts. Now let's think book of John, lead tribe of Dan, with Asher and Naphtali on either side. Okay, so here's some natural facts. Thank you, Eileen. I'm glad you're enjoying this. The eagle facts, they have 2 sets of eyelids, okay? They can close the inner set and protect their eyes from the world, right? From the things. They're up in the high places with the principalities, and there's a lot of debris flying around up there in the high places, right? So they can close the inner set and protect their eyes from the world or from that debris, from the powers and principalities, the things that might attack their sight. Okay, their vision, their mission. They can close that set from the world and still have unbelievable sharp and long-range eyesight. Okay, they mate for life. They are predators and can carry much larger prey with their powerful feet. They soar high above the earth and they get a completely different perspective on what is below and what the whole layout looks like. Okay, they're able to fly above a storm. If a storm comes, they're able to look at that thing and go, no, I'm not going to get caught in the drafts of that. I'll just rise above the storm. Very interesting. Okay, let's look at ox. So this would be Ephraim along with Manasseh and Benjamin on either side. Okay, so the ox is a domesticated, castrated bull that has been trained to serve its master with heavy labor. They are yoked together in pairs and then as large teams, depending on the difficulty of the task. They are relentless servants. They can really carry the load. Let's look at man facts. Here we go to the south. What do we know about man? Our breath stinks. We get tired and cranky. Our souls and our flesh are in constant battle with our awakened ruach, right? Once we come into that, he says that our minds are in literal enmity with the things of Yah. We have to fight to get rid of our flesh thoughts, our brain, what we want to do. We have to bow our knee to the will to follow the ruach. Okay, we are like sheep. We wander where we shouldn't. We get ourselves in a mess, and the shepherd has to rescue us over and over again. We have free will and the capacity to accept or reject yahuah, which is what makes our worship valuable. Okay, so when you think about this, no matter which of the 4 of these 4 types you're looking at, which face you're looking at, each one has the potential to be very mighty and to be dangerous. In the unbridled natural state, they are extremely dangerous creatures. Let any one of the 4 of those get agitated over a perceived threat to their territory, and they are extremely dangerous. Yet this is what yahuah chooses, this representation of character to surround his throne with on the earth and in the heavens, for these are the faces of the cherubim around his throne. Okay, now let's look at a few more characteristics. Let's look at the characteristics of the tribes as they relate to the marching order and the tribal banner. So we've got Judah in the lion position. This is the lion banner. Our Mashiach is from this tribe. He is the lion of the tribe of Yehudah. Moses prayed that this tribe would have strength against their enemies. Issachar is on one side. We know from the blessings that Issachar understands times, seasons, and has the wisdom to know what Yasharel ought to do in any given situation, right? So you can see them working very closely with the lead tribe because Yehudah is the lead tribe, okay? Then Zebulun's on the other side, and they have merchant capabilities. Their banner was a ship, right? Because they were going out onto the seas and getting goods from afar and bringing them back. And they were involved in trade and merchandise and gaining resources for the kingdom. They work hand in hand with Issachar. A lot of times they're funding the things of Yehudah and Issachar so that they can be good leaders, right? So there's that aspect of provision and work there. All right, now let's look at who was on the south side. So that was the east side, and so now we're looking at the south side. So we've got we've got Reuben. All right, what do we know about his blessing from his father? He said, "You are as unstable as water." He had trouble. He was easily led into fornication. He also had an extremely compassionate and loving nature. Okay, you see this as he goes to get the mandrakes for his mother Leah, that was not loved, not the favored wife. And you also see it when the rest of the brothers throw Joseph into the pit and are planning on killing him, and Reuben's doing everything he can to try to, make sure that doesn't happen, and that he had a whole plan to try and rescue him later, but then his brothers ended up selling him before Reuben can enact his plan. So you see a really compassionate aspect in this tribe. Okay, now on the other side of him, we've got Simeon, who had a terrible and cruel anger problem. He was a very fierce warrior, but he ran ahead of Yah, and it cost him a great deal. He also was one of the ones who wanted to murder Joseph, and then he had to spend some time in prison. Okay, so that's another really interesting aspect. And later on, as I teach more, I'm going to get to, I'm going to delve really far into each tribe. There's so much in each tribe, but I'm just trying to give you like a snippet right now of what we know about the tribes. Then we had Gad on the other side, right? Now Gad, this is the term that gadabout comes from. Like, they can't stay stable. They're a gadabout, they're here, they're there, they're everywhere. They had 3 tents on their individual tribe banner, because that's what they did. They were nomads, and they went wherever the pasture was, right, for their flocks. So Gad is, I love this. This was taken out of a book called by Gwen Shaw, called the 12 tribes of Israel. And she had written this in her book, that Gad is Gad's own worst enemy. He has internal problems of the soul that must be overcome before he can be the warrior he was called to be. Yet when Gad rises to his calling, he is a loyal and mighty warrior in Yahweh's army. The term gadabout comes from this tribe. Okay. Ox. Okay, so now here we are to Ephraim on the west side. And I think this is really also interesting if you even look at a map of the world, right? Of what we're thinking on the west, because this is west of Yerushalayim. All right. So the main symbol on the banner is the ox. Ephraim was to become a multitude of nations, greater than his brother Manasseh. Both brothers were given the prophecy. This has led the Jewish community, and more recently many in the house of Israel, to pray that Yahweh would make their sons like Ephraim and Manasseh every Shabbat. Moses blessed them together also with great abundance from the earth, and said in Deuteronomy 33:17, his glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of the reem. And some say like the unicorn, and some the what do you call that thing? Rhinoceros, right? With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth, and they are the 10,000s of Ephraim and the thousands of Manasseh. Okay, so you had Ephraim as the lead tribe, you had Manasseh and Benjamin, so all the lineage of Rachel, okay, of Yaakov and Rachel. This is the lineage right here. Benjamin has a dual nature to overcome. You see this even in his name. He was named by Rachel Benoni, like son of my sorrow. And then Yaakov came in and said, oh, no, that's not going to be his name. He's not going to be son of my sorrow, because she had sinned and it cost her her life. And so she was sorrowing. But Yaakov said, no, his name shall be Binyamin. Okay. And that changed the meaning of his name. Okay. And so there's this duality, and I don't have it right in front of me, so I'll have to think about that. We'll get to it in Benjamin. I'll go further into that. So he does have this dual nature to overcome selfishness in the youth. By evening, he is mature and shares with his family. So you can think about this on a timeline, right? And to me, time doesn't do this. It does this. Cycles of righteousness, okay? Because things repeat over and over and over again. Okay, so he is known as beloved by the Father. Yahuah has been protecting his life since birth, and he would have to be for them to be any of them left, because the way that his name started out, what happened to the whole tribe in Judges 20, when you look at that, you can see Yahuah has to be protecting them for any of them to remain at all. All right, let's go on to the eagle. Okay, so Dan, the scales of justice, right? That's how his mother Leah, no, this is comes from Rachel's handmaid, which I believe was Bilhah. And so his name means justice, because she was like, sleep with my handmaid so that I can have sons too. And she thought that was her justice. Okay, so she named his name Judgment. You know, I've been judged and I've been found correct, is what she was saying. Okay, so the evidence of the migration of this tribe throughout the East is easier to identify than any other tribe. They used the name Denmark, right? Dan has left his mark. Dan, the Danube River, you know, etc. You see this all over. Okay, Naphtali is on one side of him, Asher is on the other. Naphtali is prophesied that they will go up to the high places, right? They're going to have the ability to go up to those high places. You see this when you compare it in the book of John, and with that eagle on the lead tribe banner, because Dan's individual tribe banner was the scales of justice, but the tribe for the 3 tribe of which Dan was the lead was the eagle. You know, that's how those standards worked. Okay. Naphtali is prophesied that they will go up to the high places, tear down strongholds of the enemy. Asher, the biggest symbolism for this tribe, is oil poured forth. On their banner is the olive tree, right? All of Yasharel is compared to the olive tree. Okay. And so that's what they are, but it's about the oil. It's about that what makes that menorah have light. Okay. We see this in the menorah and the 7 ruachs of Yahuah in Isaiah 11:2. Okay. So, you know, just think about that with the different ruachs that are there. This is what's shining forth out of this tribe. Asher always makes me think of exuberant joy. So remember when Yahusha is brought to the temple on day 8, and there's a character there called a prophetess who had been a widow from a very young age, and she had resided in the temple all her days, waiting for the appearance of the Messiah. And when he was brought in at 8 days old, I just picture her almost like Tigger, you know, bouncing on the tail. So exuberant, so exuberant. I finally get to see Mashiach, right? She had been waiting for this. Okay, so now I want to show you something kind of cool, that this is a pattern. Psalm 107 is written in this pattern that I've been explaining. Okay, this is really interesting. The message starts and ends with the voice of the priesthood, which would be the tribe of Levi. All right, so let's just take a look at this. Verses 1-3, this is the voice of Levi, or corresponds to Levi. And what's he saying? They're to lead the rest of the house of Yasharel into worship. This was their job. Their job was to minister unto yahuah. They are given no tribal inheritance lands of their own. They are scattered into all the other tribes in order to be a voice of praise and leadership unto yahuah. So Psalm 107, 1-3. Oh, give thanks unto yahuah, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of yahuah say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy. And what did he do? He gathered them out of all the lands. Where? From the east, from the west, from the north, and from the south. Now, this is what tells us that these four messages, there are four very distinct messages given in this psalm. And it is, we know who it's being spoken to because of the directions that are listed out. So it's going to start right here in the same pattern. It's going to start in the east. Then it's going to go to the tribes in the west, then to the north, then to the south. So it's starting with the tribes of Yehuda. Then it's going to the tribes associated with Ephraim. Then it's going to the tribes associated with Dan. And then finally with the tribes associated with Reuben. Those four faces. Okay, so let's look at it. The lion, in the east, Yehudah, Issachar, Zebulun. Here's the message. Psalm 107, starting in verse 4. They wandered in the wilderness in a solitary way. They found no city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their soul fainted in them. Then they cried unto El Yahuah in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. And he led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city of habitation. Oh, that men would praise Yahuah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with his goodness. Let's look at the next message. This goes to the ox in the west, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin. It starts in verse 10, 107:10. Such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron. Think about those countries of the West right now and where we're sitting. There's such oppression and darkness. There's a feast for the famine of the word. There's very few speaking truth, right? All right, let me just read the message. Such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron, because they rebelled against the words of El, and condemned the counsel of El Elyon. Therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help. Then they cried unto El Yahuah in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distresses. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and he broke their bands in sunder. Oh, that men would praise Yahuah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men, for he has broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. Here's our next message. This is to the tribe of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali in the north, with the eagle as the sign on the banner, corresponding to the message that John had to give out of the Gospels. Psalm 107, starting in verse 17. Fools, because of their transgression and because of their iniquities, are afflicted. Their soul abhors all manner of meat. What are we supposed to have? Not the milk of the word, but the meat of the word. Okay, their soul abhors all manner of meat, and they draw near unto the gates of death. Then they cry unto El Yahuah in their trouble, and he saves them out of their distresses. He sent his word, and he healed them and delivered them from their destructions. Oh, that men would praise yahuah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men, and let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving and declare his works with rejoicing. All right, now let's look at man in the south. Reuben was Shimeon and Gad, because Reuben's individual banner had mandrakes on it, but the banner for the south side of the tabernacle that was carried for all three tribes to be underneath was the man on the banner. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can start to see this and the significance of it. All right, so starting now in Psalm 107, starting in verse 23. They that go down to the sea in ships that do business in great waters, these see the works of yahuah and his wonders in the deep. For he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts up the waves thereof. Now, what was told to Reuben? You're as unstable as water. Man is as unstable of water. We're 80% water, and our waters get stirred up really easily. Okay. And so here it is. For he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heavens. They go down again to the depths. Isn't that just what it's like in our emotional states? Sometimes we're raising up, and then sometimes we're plunged down, right? It's just like that. Think about the heartbeat monitor, right? That's exactly what it does. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It's life. Life is flowing through our veins when that heartbeat monitor is going up and down. The minute that it stops and it flatlines, you're done. You're dead. That's what it means. All right. So that's our condition as mankind. All right. For he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heavens. They go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of trouble. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man, and they are at their wits' ends. Then they cry unto El Yahuah in their trouble, and he brings them out of their distresses. He makes the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Then they are glad, because they be quiet. So he brings them unto their desired haven. Now, one thing that's interesting with this, corresponding with the book of Luke was a physician. He got it more than any other, the state of man. Okay. And so that's why the message for these tribes, that come with this man on the banner comes from Luke. Who better to understand the physical condition and the mental condition and the emotional than a physician? Okay. All right. So now let's go back to the voice of Levi within the psalm. Yahweh's portion in the center. Psalm 107:31. Oh, that men would praise Yahuah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Let them exalt him also in the assembly of the people, and praise him in the assembly of the elders. He turns rivers into a wilderness and the water springs into dry grounds, right? He gives us just what we need when we need it, whether it's water or dry ground. In verse 34, a fruitful land into barrenness for the wickedness of them that dwell therein. He turns the wilderness into a standing water and dry ground into water springs. And there he makes the hungry to dwell, that they may prepare a city for habitation. We are looking unto a city whose builder and maker is Yahuah, right? Isn't that what we're told in the Brit Hadashah? Psalm 107, picking back up in verse 37. And sow the fields and plant vineyards, which may yield fruits of increase. He blesses them also, so that they are multiplied greatly, and suffers not their cattle to decrease. Again, they are minished or diminished, right? They are lessened and brought low through oppression, affliction, and sorrow. He pours contempt upon princes and causes them to wander in the wilderness where there is no way. He's dealing with people according to their sins so that he can correct them and bring them back into right alignment. This is what this is saying. Picking back up in Psalm 107, verse 41. Yet he sets the poor on high from affliction, makes him families. That word can also be tribes, like a flock, and that word is Zion. Okay, tribes like Zion, tribes of Zion. Okay, that's what this is saying. The Yasharim, all right, the elect, the people that serve Yah, shall see it. They shall have the vision to understand this, and they will rejoice. And all iniquity shall stop her mouth. Whoso is wise and will guard these things, even they shall understand the loving kindness of yahuah. Okay, so this is the priesthood message coming to all the tribes, right? That's what it's trying to give them perspective, trying to point them all, no matter what you're, going through or what your vantage point is. Levi's trying, the priesthood saying, let's point back to Yahweh and his loving kindness. Let's try to understand him. All right, so now I'm going to kind of switch gears, and I just want to zero in on Levi, the tribe of Levi. So when I was given the name kind of my ministry, which would be the heart of the tribe, and I'm ministering that out individually. We've got now a whole network of people that are networking underneath the Mishkan. Let me just remove this for a second while I explain this, and then I'll add it back so I can sit back in my chair and not have to be so forward. But what we've done here lately is we have joined. Hi, Nina. Good to see you here. We have several ministries have come together, kind of what's underneath what's considered the Mishkan of a tabernacle, to work together, the different ministries. And the name of our community is the Heart of the Tribe community. Okay. I still have messages myself as the Heart of the Tribe show, but the Heart of the Tribe community is a different thing. And you're seeing lots of things brought forth. You're seeing Lee Hood, minister to us from the Torah. In fact, we're all kind of sharing certain show platforms where we're getting together and each kind of taking a turn with Mercy Poured Forth, with Let's Talk Torah. But Lee and Catherine have their own ministry that's kind of underneath that tabernacle tent, the Mishkan, right? So that we can all help this platform to grow and meet and meet the needs of people. And theirs is called Blood of the Lamb Ministries. Okay, we've got James and Lee Hood that have their own show, The River and the Ravens, right? Between the River and the Ravens. And I'm going to be doing Monday. My husband and I are going to come on for a special broadcast. I believe it's at 3 p.m. this coming Monday. And we're going to really introduce James and Lee Carruthers to you before their show begins on Thursdays at, I believe it's at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And they're going to have their own show called Between the River and the Ravens. And I can't wait to see that. So that's coming up this week. So just that understanding, that's kind of how things are working like that. All right. I want to add this back so now I can talk to you about the tribe of Levi. So anyway, it was when I first got this name, Heart of the Tribe, it was in 2004. I had left my role as a pastor of fine arts in a traditional church setting, and because I had seen the truth of the Shabbat and the Moedim, and I tried to work with the head pastor in my church, and he didn't want any part of that, and told me that if I wasn't willing to lead things like the traditional Easter egg hunt, that I had no place there. And I agreed with him. I had no place there any longer. So I went home and I sat home and I just started studying Torah portions. I was all by myself. I didn't know anybody else to fellowship with at that point. And so I was just like, that's okay. You teach me how to rest. I'm going to learn what Shabbat means. I'm going to learn what you require of me on this day, and I'm going to study, right? Until you show me what to do. And so I was doing that. And I was sitting home and I was studying the portion out of Genesis where Jacob is blessing his sons. And I see in there in Genesis 49:1, gather yourselves together so that I may tell you what will befall you in what's called the Akarit Hayamim, which is the very end of days, the end of time. And then he begins to bless each tribe individually with their individual blessing. And it blew my mind. I was like, what are you talking about, Yah? What does this mean? It's for the very end times. This is for us, all 12 tribes. What? Yeah, I mean, it just blew me away. And I could hear Yah's voice so clearly. And he started telling me, yes, every tribe is still alive and well on planet Earth. And I'm going to gather them out of the nations and I'll teach you about them. And I'll teach you how to recognize them by what's coming out of their heart. And you'll be able to see them in the scriptures. And so I began writing about it that very night and made my first banner for the tribe of Zebulun, right? Because I really resonated with that tribe. And he showed me that night a blessing out of the Psalms for each and every tribe. And I began writing and studying. And that was in 2004. And I've been writing and studying about it quite a bit ever since. Kat Hood can tell you, she's been helping me edit some of the stuff on my my document, my book that I've been doing forever, which is just, very, very long at this point. And so I'm pulling this portion from where I first got started. This is what he showed me that very night back in 2004. And then in the subsequent years, it took me about till 2006 to get all the information that he showed me in this very basic thing that I'm going to show you next. And he gave it to me for every tribe. So anyway, I'm going to add it back to the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. All right. Heart of Levi. So I had written this and I'm not even sure which version of the scriptures this came out of. It could have been New Living Testament. It could be the American Standard, or it could have been King James. I don't know what I was studying at that particular moment. I'll probably end up changing. I've tried to change most things to the Sefer version, but it takes me a bit to get that done. And Kat's been helping me with that too. All right. So, Heart of Levi, Adonai, my assigned portion, my cup, you safeguard my share. Pleasant places were measured out for me. I'm content with my heritage. And this was out of Psalm 16:5-6. And so this is what Yah showed me, because they don't have their own particular place. And the wildest thing was happening to me in my life at the point that this was given to me. As I was started really studying out Levi, my natural family, my natural father's mother was very offended with me when I tried to share the gospel message of salvation with her and questioned her about her own personal relationship with Yahusha. And her response to me was my family paid for the pews in the church. And I was like, yeah, but you haven't been there in 45 years. Do you know him? And she got really, really, really angry with me. She was big into the Eastern Stars, which she tried to get me into, like the Rainbow Girls and all that stuff, leading me in that direction. And I always hated it. It was way too formal for me. I didn't like it. There was nothing about it that I liked. I liked the Baptist church and the school and the bus that they sent by. And I liked getting on the bus and going and hanging out at the Baptist church. And, I didn't like anything to do with the Eastern Stars or the Rainbow Girls or the Masons or any of that mess. I never liked it. I never wanted to touch it. But that was where my family was coming from, right? So anyway, that was going on, and I was studying. It came to the point where she died, and I realized I'd been, that part of my family had a lot of property, had some wealth, had some things, and it was, my natural father's lineage, and I was only one of two grandchildren. That was only two out of the whole family, right? There's only two of us, and I was the eldest one. And I came to find out that I had been completely cut out of anything, and that everything went to the only other granddaughter that there was. And I was like, wow, they totally cut me out. And I heard Yah tell me, I am your portion. Be glad that that family disinherited you. Let me be your portion. And I went, yep, hallelujah. Thank you, Father. I don't need that to be my portion. So anyway, let me add this back to the screen. So here's what he showed me about Levi. The key to understanding the heart of Levi is Adonai's portion. The name Levi means joined or united. Leah named him this in hopes that his birth would cause her husband Jacob to be joined to her. The name further implies the role of mediator between two parties in order to bring unity. You can see this, the naming in Genesis 29:34. And Genesis 34 is the story of Simeon and Levi deceiving the men of Shechem in order to destroy them. This was done out of revenge. Their sister Dinah was raped by the prince of that city. In taking this action, they were not listening to Yahweh Zavaot, the Lord of the host of heavens, Yahweh of the host of heaven's armies, right? To give the command that it was time for war. So they were out of timing. Rather, along with Simeon, they took matters into their own hands, causing their father Jacob much shame and anxiety. Because of the destruction of Shechem, Jacob prophesied that these two tribes would be scattered in Israel, having no land to call their own. Shimon and Levi, and this is Genesis 49:5-7. Shimon and Levi are brothers, related by weapons of violence. Let my honor not be connected with their anger. I will divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Israel. Okay. So that was just, I kind of paraphrased that a little bit, but it comes from Genesis 49:5-7. All right. So the symbol on the banner used in the wilderness is the breastplate. You can see this up here. This is actually a picture of a banner that I made, and it was like the ephod. It was big. It's a big one that hangs on the wall. And I used to travel around back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, that era, and sell my banners that I made at different messianic type conferences, and met a lot of wonderful people doing that. And anyway, so I got a picture of one of them, and Kat, in her wonderful way and full of the talent that she has, turned it into a thumbprint for us to be able to use as a logo for the greater heart of the tribe. All right. So the symbol on the banner used in the wilderness is the breastplate of judgment. The high priest was of this tribe, and he ministered to Yahweh on behalf of the tribes of Israel. He wore the breastplate with the names of the children of Israel over his heart. We see this out of Exodus 28. Yahweh decreed that they would not receive their own partition of land because of their unsanctioned violence. This is what we were reading in Genesis 49:5-7. One of the things that Moshe said of them in Deuteronomy 33:8-11 is, this is the second blessing that they got, right? They got all 12 tribes got a blessing from Jacob before he passed. And then Moses did the same thing in Deuteronomy 33. All right. So he said of this tribe, they shall teach Yaakov thy judgments and Yisrael thy law. They shall put incense before thee and whole burnt sacrifice upon thine altar. Levi's tendency towards cruelty has been turned towards the work of Adonai and carrying out the necessary sacrifices on behalf of all Israel. Okay. Hello, Adeline. I love you guys. Hi, Kat. During the rain, and I do have on my glasses. During the reign of King David, there was a priest named Zadok that remained faithful to King David and unto the plan of yahuah to see Solomon enthroned as the next king. He was described as a priest and a prophet. In Ezekiel 44, we're told what the priesthood will be doing in the millennial reign of Yahusha. The only Levites that are qualified to minister unto yahuah during this time are from the line of Zadok. yahuah makes a distinction between who's qualified to minister unto him and who is only qualified to minister to the people. When you're called to minister, there's always a pull to please the people, okay? Ministers, those who are in leadership and called to speak Yah's word, they must make a decision as to who they serve, man or Yah, right? The Levites were always supposed to be Yahuah's portion, but some have disqualified themselves because of ambition and a desire to please people. And Moshe was specifically told, don't look at their faces. Jeremiah in Jeremiah 1 was told, don't look at the people's faces. Why? Because he doesn't want us to be influenced by others' opinions on what we do. The only opinion that matters on how I bring forth the message of Yah is Yah's opinion. He's the one who gives the orders into how we do this. Okay. All right. This is what happened to Aaron in the golden calf. He was swayed by the men, by the people. Okay. So now let's take a look at the marching order in the wilderness and the organization of Israel's camp. And this is still in with the tribe of Levi, because in order to understand what their function was, you have to look at it in context. That's for Adeline. This is Kat's 2-year-old, so I'm blowing her a kiss. All right, Numbers 2, starting in verse 1. All right. And Yahuwah spoke unto El Moshe and El Haran, saying, every man of the children of Yasharel shall pitch by his own standard, okay, with the ensign of their father's house. This is what I was telling you about the individual tribal banners, okay? All 12 tribes had their own individual, okay? And actually, what we're looking at here, and it was it was 12 because Levi's in the center, okay? Making it 13, but it's still 12 because Ephraim has replaced Joseph, okay? So there's 12, and then there's the one in the center making 13, but they're separated unto Yah. Okay, so it's still 12. It's 12, but it's 13. It's 13, but it's 12, right? Okay, so when Yahuwah spoke unto El Moshe and unto El Haran, saying, every man of the children of Yasharel shall pitch by his own standard with the ensign of their father's house, far off about the tabernacle of the assembly shall they pitch, and on the east side toward the rising of the sun shall they of the standard of the camp of Yahudah pitch throughout their army. So there's Yahudah, right? And the lead tribe with the lion. Okay, so the duties of the Levites in the tabernacle. All priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. This is what you've got to understand about the tribe of Levi. Not all of them are priests. There were different functions here. So now we're going to look at what were the different functions within the tribe. Moses and the priest, they were encamped on the east side of the tabernacle, where the lion banner was right behind them. These were the priests. They were the only ones allowed to touch the sacred vessels of worship before Yahweh. They performed all the priestly duties of sacrifice and incense burning, the lighting of the menorah, the care of the ark. If it was a part of the service, they were the only ones allowed to touch it. Anyone else would die. We see this in Numbers 3, 9 through 13. And ye shall give the Leviim unto Haran and his sons. They are wholly given unto him out of the children of Yasharel. And ye shall appoint Haran and his sons, and they shall guard the priest office, and the stranger that comes nigh shall be put to death. And Yahweh spoke unto El Moshe, saying, And I, behold, I have taken the Leviim from among the children of Yasharel, instead of all the firstborn that opens the womb among the children of Yasharel. Therefore, the Leviim shall be mine. Okay, because all the firstborn are mine. For on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Yasharel, both man and beast. Mine shall they be. I am Yahuah. Okay, so here's what we see there. The tribe of Levi is encamped in the center of all the tribes, and they are in charge of worship and service to Yahuah. There is a flow to worship in the tabernacle pattern, okay? And this is a flow that we can incorporate into our lives every single day, because we are all kings and priests unto Yahuah. So what happens when we wake up in the morning, right? We enter the gate through thanksgiving for all Yahuah is and all he does. We approach the bronze altar. And the first thing that we see that must be done every morning by this tribe in the natural and us in the spiritual is to remove the ashes of yesterday, to become ready for the sacrifices of today. Our sacrifice today is confession of sin. It takes constant humility, but in return, we get his grace and his forgiveness, atonement. Let's break the word down. At one mint, right? Atonement. At one mint. At echad mint. Echad's what's in the middle of that. Okay? Becoming echad, because I'm at peace, being at one with Yahusha and Yahuah the Father. Yahusha said in, I believe it was, it's either John 10 or John 17, that I and the Father is one. And Father, I desire that these would be one with us the way that you and I are one. It's at one mint. It's atonement. Okay. All right. So we've got comfort being in his presence. That's the first thing we've done. We've dealt with our sin. Okay. At the bronze laver, we experience the cleanliness that forgiveness brings. We're able to bask in those cool waters of his grace and soak in his love for us. Okay. Then we enter his courts with praise. Okay. We enter the courts with praise. We come to the table of showbread, remembering that Yahusha said, "This is my body broken for you." And we partake of the bread of life. The altar of incense is where we offer up our prayers and our worship, and they ascend as a sweet smelling sacrifice unto the nostrils of Yahuah. Okay? The menorah shows us that he is our light. He is our word. He guides our path. He gives us his ruach in completeness with the ruachs of wisdom, understanding, knowledge, counsel, might, the fear of Yahuah. Okay, these are the 7 that we see listed in Isaiah 11:2. Next, the Holy of Holies contains his very presence, and we meet with him in that secret place where he's able to share with us his wisdom, his shalom, his instructions, and we partake of his joy. The joy of Yahuah is our strength. This is where we draw our strength from. I believe that this corresponds to the tree of life that is in the Garden of Eden, and to the human heart, which is to be willingly offered up as a throne for Yahuah. Do you see the connections there with the priestly service? Shalom in my life is the highest form of warfare. When I don't let myself get drug around by everything that this world is doing, and I instead practice those priestly duties before my Elohim and order my life accordingly, I have shalom, no matter what else is going on in the world. Okay. Am I perfectly at peace every moment? No, I am as human as anybody, and things can come along and throw me off track. But here I have an example of what to get back to so that my heart is steady. Shalom is the highest form of warfare. Now, I mean, I keep a picture up on for me with the words of shalom. You've got the shin, the lamed, the vav, and the mem. The shin is destroy, something that destroys. The lamed is authority, right? Then you've got the vav with a nail, and then you've got the mem with chaos. So to me, shalom simply means I must rise up and I must destroy the authority that is connected to any chaos coming my way. This is how I maintain shalom. I look at it and I know I've been given the authority to destroy the authority, the powers, principalities, the things that are coming my way that is connected to chaos. I'm not under that authority. I'm under a different authority. And so shalom for me is a rejection of that kind of authority, of evil authority, because I'm not under that. I'm under Yah's authority. And so I don't have to put up with it. All right, so shalom is our highest form of warfare. We see it in the example of Yahusha. He lived in constant shalom. He was not afraid of what was happening. We see it in the examples of those who were sure of their Elohim and nothing fazed them that man did to them. Look at Paul. Look at Stephen. These are some great examples in scripture. I love Psalm 119, 165. It says, great peace, great shalom have they which love your Torah, and nothing shall offend them. Okay. Offense is in the Greek, it shows it the best. Offense is like a trap that's been laid for the enemy. And it's not just the trap, it's the bait that's in the trap. And so offense itself, right, is designed to get you to pick it up, it's bait, so that a trap can close up on you and get you entrapped. That's what offense is. All right. So this is important, especially in your Peniel moments. Now, I teach a lot about the Peniel moment. This is the moment that Jacob was going to face Esau. And I'll teach about that in depth at a later time because this teaching is long enough. All right. So a Peniel moment reveals a true character of any human. It's only revealed when pressure is applied. It's the same way that olive oil is produced. You only get it because the olives are crushed. You know what's the cool to me about olive oil? The very first bit that comes is just by the harvesting of the olives and setting them together. Just the fact that they rub up against one another, and think about that. Yasharel is the olive tree. We're the olives. We're the fruit on that tree, right? And just by putting us together, the very first, purest form of the oil comes forth, right? Just from the pressure of being shoulder to shoulder. I think that's really cool. Okay, so now let's take a look at the different jobs of the tribe of Levi. I told you guys this was going to be long. It is too. All right. So we've got the Kohathites is one branch. This is who, so we were just looking at the priesthood. They come from the Kohathites, but not everybody from the Kohathites is a priest. Right? There's only certain ones that are a priest. And this is the lineage of Aharon, which has the priest. But there were other Kohathites. Okay. All right. So the Kohathites were encamped on the south side of the tabernacle, which is where the man banner was. Behind them, they were in front of the house of Reuben. They were in charge of carrying the articles of the sanctuary when they were on the move. We see this in Numbers 4, starting in verse 15. And when Haran and his sons have made an end of covering the sanctuary and all the vessels of the sanctuary, as the camp is to set forward after that, the sons of Kohath, the Kohathites, shall come to bear it. But they shall not touch any holy thing lest they die. These things are the burden of the sons of Kohathite that are in the tabernacle of the assembly. He's saying this is only for Aaron's lineage, right? In the tabernacle. And to the office of Eleazar, the son of Erharon, the priest, pertains the oil for the light and the sweet incense and the daily oblation and the anointing oil and the oversight of all the tabernacle and all that therein is in the sanctuary and in the vessels thereof. And Yahuwah spoke unto El Moshe and El Erharon, saying, cut ye not off the tribe of the families of the Kohathim from among the Leviim. They're not separate from the Leviim. They're still part of Levi, is what he's saying. But thus shall be what their job description is. Thus do unto them, that they may live and not die. When they approach unto the most holy things, Erharon and his sons shall go in and appoint them, everyone his service to his burden. He's saying, you're going to have to give them instructions because they're being entrusted to take care of certain things, but they've got to do it according to the pattern or they'll die. This is very serious, right? But they shall not go in to see when the holy things are covered, lest they die. They weren't even allowed to put their eyes on what was in the inner court. They weren't allowed to do that. That they couldn't put their eyes on these things. Okay, next we come to another division within the tribe of Levi called the Gershonites. Okay, the Gershonites, this is another son of Levi, and this was how that lineage came down. So the Gershonites, Gershon was his son. Gershonites were encamped on the west side of the tabernacle, and the ox banner was what was behind them. They were in front of the house of Ephraim. They were in charge of caring for the tent and its many layers of coverings, the curtains in the tabernacle, not the Holy of Holies, its entrance, curtains, and its ropes. They had the heavy load of carrying the tent. Here we see the example of that in scripture. It's found in Numbers 4, starting in verse 21. And Yahuwah spoke unto El Moshe, saying, lift also the head of the sons of Gershon throughout the houses of their fathers by their families. From 30 years old and upward until 50 years old shall you number them, all that enter in to perform the service to do the work in the tabernacle of the assembly. This is the service of the families of the Gershonites to serve and for burdens. Okay, so there we see it in the scriptures. Now the Merarites, they were this is another son of Levi. Okay, there were the three sons. And I talked about this, I believe, yesterday in Let's Talk Torah, so that I can do kind of a preview to this message because this message was already going to be so long. All right. So the Merarites were encamped on the north side of the tabernacle. The eagle banner was behind them. They were located in front of the house of Dan. They were charged with the care of the frames, supporting the crossbars, the pillars, the bases, and all the equipment related to their use. We see this in Numbers 4, starting in verse 29. As for the sons of Merari, you shall number them after their families by the house of their fathers. From 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, shall you number them, every one that enters into the service to do the work of the tabernacle of the assembly. And this is the charge of their burden, according to all their service in the tabernacle of the assembly, the boards of the tabernacle, and the bars thereof, and the pillars thereof, and sockets thereof, and the pillars of the court round about, and their sockets, and their pins, and their cords, and with all their instruments, and with all their service, and by name you shall reckon the instruments of the charge of their burden. Okay, so we see what was going on there. Now I want to end this teaching, and it'll take me a little while to do it. I'm not quite done yet, but we're going to move on to the book of Hebrews so we can see what this looks like after Yahusha has come and he is our perpetual high priest forever, and why he was able to be the high priest even though he came from the line of Yahudah. This is what gets explained in the book of Hebrews. So let's start here. So in Hebrews 4:14 through 16, seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Yahusha, the son of Elohim, let us hold fast our profession, for we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Going right into chapter 5. I need to switch this for a minute. Give me just a second. Sorry, I need a little, I know you guys can still hear me. I just need a little water break. Get my lips going again. Okay. And then I'll come back here. All right, let me get the layout right again. Okay. All right. Into Hebrews chapter 5. For every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to Elohim. So what's he talking about? From the Levitical priesthood, the physical descendants of Aharon. Okay. For every high priest is taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to Elohim, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for he himself also is compassed with infirmity. What's he saying? He's saying this pattern on earth, was given because, all men fall short of the glory of Elohim. And even though they were the ones commissioned for this office in the priesthood, they're still just men, and they're able to have compassion on all men, because they realize that they also are subject to, falling down and falling short and having attacks of infirmity, right? All right, picking up in verse 3, Hebrews 5:3. And by reason thereof, he ought, as for the people, so also for himself, to offer for his sins. He's making atonement for himself as well as everybody else, right? And no man takes this honor unto himself, but he that is called of Elohim, as was Aharon. So also Mashiach glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that said unto him, You are my son, today have I begotten you. As he says also in another place, you, Yahusha, are a priest forever, after the order of Melech-Zedek. So what is that word? Zedek is righteous, Melech is king, after the order of the king of righteousness, okay? Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard, and that he feared. Because Yahusha said, take this cup from me if it's possible. I don't want to have to drink this cup of iniquity, right? That was the iniquity of all the sins of the whole world. It's a heavy cup, if it be possible, right? Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto them that obey him. Called of Elohim, a high priest after the order of Melech-Zedek, the king of righteousness. Okay. Let's go on to Hebrews 7. For this Melech-Zedek, king of Shalom, priest of El Elyon, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Shalom, king of peace. So he's both. He is the king of righteousness and he is the king of peace. Okay. Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days. Why? Because he is eternal. This is Yahusha. Nor end of life. He lives forever and reigns forever. But made like unto the Son of Elohim, abides a priest continually. Okay, it's trying to get us to wrap our minds around what is this priesthood, but a continual one. Okay, Hebrews 7:4. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the 10th of the spoils. And truly, they that are the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the statutes, that is, of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham and blessed him that had the promises. He's saying he was before Abraham was, I am, right? This is what this is explaining to us. All right. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. And here men that die receive tithes, but there he receives them, of whom it is witnessed that he lives. And as I may say so, Levi also, who received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham, for he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. Okay, he's saying Levi existed as the seed that was inhabiting Abraham's body, right? Before Abraham ever even met Melchizedek. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aharon? For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the priestly regimen. Okay, so he's giving us a new vision on this priestly regimen. For he of whom these things are spoken pertains to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. What's he saying? He's saying that Yahusha was from the tribe of Yehuda, and they were not to come near the altar, right? So this is very interesting. He's describing what happened. For it is evident that our Adonai sprang out of Yehuda, of which tribe Moshe spoke nothing concerning priesthood. And it is yet far more evident, for that after the similitude of Melchizedek, there arises another priest, who is made not after regimen of the commands of the flesh, but after the power of an endless life. He lives and reigns forever. For he testifies, you are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, the king of righteousness. For there is truly a disannulling of the commandment going before for the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. He's saying that system didn't have the profit that we need it to have for redemption. Okay. For the priestly regiment made nothing perfect, but the bringing in of a better hope did, by the which we draw nigh unto Elohim. And inasmuch as not without an oath he was made priest. He didn't have to take an oath. Okay. He was priest forever. For those priests were made without an oath, but this is an oath by him that said unto him, Yahuwah swore and will not repent. You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. By so much was Yahusha made a surety of a better covenant. It's not a new covenant. It's not that the covenant was thrown away, disavowed, done away with, doesn't matter anymore. It's a better covenant because the burden is on him and not us, right? This is so much better. And they truly were many priests because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death. But this man, because he continues forever, this is Yahusha, has an unchangeable priesthood. Wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come unto Elohim by him, seeing he ever lives to make intercession for them. For such a high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens, who needs not daily as those priests to offer up a sacrifice. He doesn't have to offer up the daily sacrifices, right? This is not, Yahusha doesn't have to do that for his, first for his own sins and then for the people's, because he was without sin. He didn't have sin. He did this once. He offered up himself once when he offered up himself. Okay. That was it. Once was enough. For the law makes men high priests which have infirmity, right? From the human tribe of Levi. But the word of the oath, which was since the Torah, the Son, is consecrated forevermore. I believe that this is I'll be interested to hear what Chris has to say, but I believe this word of the oath is that oath of Becca that Chris has been teaching about out of Enoch 16:9. We're going to do some more digging there. I'm really looking forward to it. Next Wednesday, Chris McIntyre and I will be on with a program at 1 p.m. And I believe we're going to kind of go some more into this oath. So that's really exciting. Excuse me. Okay, now into Hebrews 8. Not too much longer. All right. Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such a high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle. We are the living stones tabernacle. All right. We are it. We are just like the breastplate of the high priest had the precious stones with the tribe names. That was a pattern. Okay. We are the living stones tabernacle. Hebrews 8:2, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which yahuah pitched, and not of man. This is his building, not man's building. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, which it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the Torah. So he's our high priest in the heavenly realm, right? Hebrews 8:5, who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things. Everything we're doing down here is nothing more than a shadow of what's being done in fullness in the heavenly realm. As it is in the heavens, let it be done on the earth. Follow this pattern, right? This is why the exact measurements, the exact pattern for all of the tabernacle was given in such detail, to every rivet, to every curtain, to every cord, to every utensil, everything, to the way it was carried, to the way it was carried out. This was the pattern of how it's done in heaven. And this is why this exactness was given. It is a shadow and an example of heavenly things. Continuing in Hebrews 8:5, as Moshe was admonished of Elohim when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, says he, that you make all things according to the pattern showed you in the mount. Do it like I told you to do it. That's what he's saying. Hebrews 8:6, but now he has obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. Wouldn't we, if it had been faultless, if it had done the job, we would have had no need for yahusha to come with a better covenant, right? Hebrews 8:8, for finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come, says yahuah, when I will cut a renewed covenant with the house of Yasharel and the house of Yehuda. Again, we see the two houses, the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom, right there. Okay. Not according to the covenant that I cut with their fathers, and the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mitzrayim, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, says yahuah. For this is the covenant that I will cut with the house of Yasharel after those days, says yahuah. I will put my torah into their mind, and I will write it in their hearts, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know yahuah, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness and their sins, and their torahless deeds will I remember no more. What a promise. Hebrews 8:13, and that he says, a renewed covenant he has made, the first old. Now that which decays and waxes old is ready to vanish away. All right. I am going to read Hebrews 9, and then that's going to be the end of the teaching. So in Hebrews 9:1, then truly the first covenant had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary. For there was a tabernacle made, the first wherein was the menorah and the table and the showbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, right, that separated the Holy of Holies, and after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all. There's the holy place and the Holy of Holies, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid round about with the gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna and Aharon's rod that budded. So this is the Holy of Holies. This is the inner sanctum where the showbread was, and the altar and all that was the holy place. And then now he's talking about the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctum. All right. Which, so in Hebrews 9:4, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had the manna and the Aharon's rod that budded, and the sapphires of the covenant, the 10 devarim on sapphire tablets. And over it, the cherubim, right? We started with the cherubim. We're seeing the cherubim now. The cherubim of glory, shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly. Now, when these things were thus ordained, the priest went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of Elohim. But into the second went the high priest alone, once every year. This was Yom Kippur. Okay, this is the day of Yom Kippur, the 6 Moedim of the 7 Moedim, the appointed times of yahuah, the feast of yahuah that we read about in Leviticus 23. This is what it's referring to. So they only went into the Holy of Holies one time a year. One man, the high priest, once a year, went into the Holy of Holies to minister unto yahuah. Okay, so I'm going to start there. Hebrews 9:7. But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the errors of his people. The Ruach HaKodesh, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present. What's he saying? It was a pattern. It was a figure. It was to show you something that's happening in the heavenly realm. Okay, so which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect, had no way to bring about perfection. as pertaining to the conscience. It couldn't even totally relieve your guilty conscience, he was saying. Couldn't do it, because that's what separates us from Elohim. It's our guilty conscience, right? Because we're sinners. Okay, Hebrews 9:10. Which stood only in foods and drinks and diverse washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of restoration. So this was to be imposed until the time of restoration. What's that time of restoration? Once Yahusha came and became our high priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. All right, Hebrews 9:11. But Mashiach being come a high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats or calves, but by his own blood, he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of a heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctifies to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Mashiach, who through the eternal Ruach offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim. And for this cause he is the mediator of the renewed covenant, that by means of death for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first covenant, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. This is a very legal term. It's like, where there's a will, right? That the will is not enacted unless the one who made the will dies. That's what it's saying. Okay. Hebrews 9:17. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator lives. Whereupon neither the first covenant was dedicated without blood. For when Moshe had spoken every precept to all the people according to the Torah, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the Sefer and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the covenant which Elohim has enjoined to you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry, and almost all things are by the Torah purged with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. I mean, do you see that? Without the shedding of Mashiach's blood and applying that to your life, there is no remission of sin. He is the door to the kingdom, and you cannot get in any other way. There's no other door into the kingdom without the acceptance of the shedding of the blood of Mashiach for your sin. That's it. Plain and period. You do not get into the kingdom without accepting that, without accepting his free gift of salvation. You must go through the door. Hebrews 9:23. It was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Mashiach is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of Elohim for us. He's our mediator, right? Nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest enters into the holy place every year with the blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now, once in the end of the world, has he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself on the executioner's tree. All right. Hebrews 9:27. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment, so Mashiach was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto Yeshua, unto salvation. Whoo! So that was my teaching for today. I am grateful I had extra time to bring it to you because I wanted to go ahead and give you that fullness in one picture. I hope it was a blessing unto you. May his grace and his mercy shine upon your life. May you see his joy in your life. May you be blessed. May you partake of his shalom in your life. Blessings to you all. Thank you, Kat. I really appreciate that. And join us tomorrow morning for Mercy Poured Forth with Lee Carruthers. I'm looking forward to that word. Also, Kat and Lee Hood will be bringing a message tomorrow on Blood of the Lamb Ministries. So we've got lots going on and lots to look forward to, and we hope that you will all enjoy it. Thank you, Ren. Thank you, Betty. I appreciate each and every one of you, Eileen and Kay. I thank all of you for being here with me today. It means so much to me that you were here. And whether we're able to join the live teaching or whether you watch it later, I pray that this is a fruitful teaching in your life, that it brings much revelation and understanding, and that it's a blessing for you. Alrighty, bye guys.
Their journey began in Chelle, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beats, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.